Alrighty, folks. We now go to the Kaltron Supercars, Formula Supercars, and the Bejo Trustees Fine Cars. Their second race of the day. Glenn Phillips will start on pole position in the Supercar section with Andrew Moffat sharing that front row with him. And as I talk, the sky is crying right now because there's more rain coming down, more wind coming up, more motions running high. Everything's happening here, like you saw in the last race with that 200 SX hitting the wall like that. Thankfully the driver is okay. Car, well, not so much.
Well, I see the supercars coming out, and Craig Hume in the 21 car is out there with them as well. Let's have a look as they work their way into turn 2. Michael Nell is there, Glenn Phillips is there, Andrew Moffat is there. Remember, they came first, second and third in that order in race 1. There is Carl Halleck, Karel van der Merwe is there, and then Craig Hume. So all 6 the supercars are there. And let's have a look, see Byron in the fine cars. Jaco Oosthuizen, the man that won the opening race in the Toyota Conquest. I'm sure he must be out there. Yes, there he goes. Down the back straight he goes. And then you've got the Mazda MX-5 of Robert Toscano, the Jetta 1 of Natasha Tischendorf, and then we've got Roger Lewis out there. And you said Fred Lewis.
What was there, Fred Flintstone over there?
Yeah, Fred Flintstone. Yeah, Roger Lewis is out there. And the BMW is also out there of Bradley Rowe.
So Bradley Rowe rounds off the 11 that should be out there. And, well, they will make their way to the grid slowly but surely now, as the Renault Triber will be ready to take them off the line, the safety car, to do a warm-up lap. They'll try and generate as much heat into those tires as they possibly can before getting to the line where the lights will go out. Luckily, it's not a standing start, so they won't lose too much temperature in the tires, but even getting the tires up to temperature on this wet circuit is going to be quite a task. So here they come now. I see the Conquest leading the Mazda of Toscano, Jaco Oosthuizen in there, and then we wait for those supercars. And like you were saying earlier on, Frankie, remember the fogging up, or actually one time we spoke about it, I think, as well, the fogging up of the windscreen.
Yes.
In the supercars.
In the supercars, because the drivers sit too far back. They basically sit there where the B pillar would be, so there's no ways that they can get to those front windows. In the racing suit and that racing harnesses, you can't move inside that. So if that lot does messed up, then they've got problems. They've also got no windscreen wipers. It's a fully blown race car, the Formula Supercars. So yeah, it could be a little bit interesting for the drivers out there. So they're busy working their way through, and on the front row of the grid in P2 is Andrew Moffat. Here comes the Jetmaster car in P1. That's Glenn Phillips. All looks okay so far. The 31 car of Kyle Halleck is moving into his position. The 74 of Karel van der Merwe coming through, and then we see Michael Nell. Craig Hume went out onto the circuit, the 21 car, but it's not on the grid with the other 5 supercars.
Well, they will now get off the line behind the safety car. And yeah, Tiny was also mentioning as well, remember the heat through the firewall as well of the engines when we were talking about the windshield fogging up as well. And remember, well, I actually saw some videos of some Group B footage where you had the navigator with a squeegee inside the car doing the wiping work whilst the driver could concentrate ahead of him. He has to also call out the pace notes as well on top of it, so that's quite a task. But it's not like in single-seater racing or in bikes where you could just lift the lid slightly, the visor, and you get a little stream of air going through there. But Usually we were talking about as well the tires that they are all on, the road tires for the fine cars, and there is a wet weather tire that a cut wet weather tire that the supercars do use.
Yeah, it's a cut slick tire. It works a bit, it helps a bit, but still, you're going to be very, very careful out there with those cut slicks on the supercars. So once again, Craig Hume in the 21 car did go out. I saw he was the last car of the train of 6 that worked its way out onto the circuit, but he is once again not out there with the other 5 supercars.
Just as they're going around, Frankie, actually, I'm sure it's still on YouTube, but it's from many, many years ago when we had the Group N racing and we had the super bosses out, of course, of Michael Briggs and Roddy Turner and
Leon Marais.
Yeah, and they went to the Nürburgring one year to do the Nürburgring 24 hours, and they didn't have wet weather tires, so they got somebody there with a soldering iron to carve grooves into these tires. And remember, this is on the treacherous Noordschleife, which this is a normal day, basically, at the Noordschleife, because it can get even worse and dry on some parts of the track and very, very wet on other parts.
There's over 30 corners, if not more, on that circuit. I think it might even be close to 50 odd. Well, yeah.
It's a lot.
Plenty.
It's a lot. More than my fingers and toes
maybe
put together.
there's more than what I'm actually thinking.
But yeah, they come now slowly, gingerly coming, Frankie, towards that turn 5. And Phil Herold, who's driving that safety car, will pull in to the old pit lane, and then we'll be racing for 7 laps.
Well, here we go. 7 laps of action. Bejo Trustees, fine cars. Ahead of them, Kaltron Formula Supercars. The safety cars pulled off. And it's now in the hands of the pole sitter. That's Glenn Phillips. The lights are on. The lights go off, and away the 5 supercars go. Working their way down into turn number 1. Phillips on the inside. It is Moffat that sits there on his outside. Byron, as the fine cars start their race.
Well, we have a spinner, looks like it, in turn 1. So the fine cars will come through on that section. And it is Oosthuizen that will lead into turn 1, followed by Robert Toscano. Everybody seems to get it through, Roger Lewis included. And also the BMW 2002 there of Bradley Rowe.
Yeah, I picked that one up. The spinner was Andrew Moffat. He rejoins in that 3rd position as he sits there behind Michael Nell. It's going to get very, very difficult now. Already you've got Oosthuizen that is ahead there of Michael Nell, and he's been hassled there by Robert Toscano through the kink. They go into turn number 3 into Interceptor Corner, so it is not easy out there if you are in a supercar.
Well, they go through turn 3, Interceptor Corner now, and like Frankie was pointing out there, starting to mix it with the supercars are the fine cars, but probably, even though they are on the cut slicks, the supercars, the more desirable tire in this race will be those used by the fine cars. Remember, these cars are road legal, the fine cars, and some of them even drive to the track, so they know the conditions very well, and they're going down the back straight now towards turn 5, Pertamina Fastron. Glenn Phillips will still take them around at the front of the field, but slowly but surely, Jaco Oosthuizen, who started 7th, is carving his way through in the conquest.
Yeah, working their way under the center cut. We've got trouble coming out of turn number 5. That could be Moffat that has lost it. Yes, that is Andrew Moffat that's lost it. Here comes the Mazda MX-5 of Robbie Toscano coming through. Karel van der Merwe, you see him there in the background, come through with Natasha Tischendorf behind him. But once again, Byron, trouble out there for the 2nd time on the same lap for Andrew Moffat.
Well, here we go now as well. And another thing that the supercars don't have are windscreen wipers, as you can see on the fine cars as well. So they have got that advantage as well for knowing where they are going at all times. And now you'll see this little tight battle happening as that is going to be Moffat and van der Merwe. Tischendorf will be behind them. 7.6 seconds third in the fine cars class at the moment, ahead of Bradley Rowe, the son of Robert Rowe, in the BMW.
Right, so let's have a look at these two supercars that's working their way up the Tygerberg Straight. They're heading towards turn number 4, towards Saddle Sweep. That's Glenn Phillips and Michael Nell that you see going around there. The people at home on their screens can see this. Down the back main they go, and they are literally nose to tail as we pick them up going down the back main. It is Phillips in P1. It's Nell in P2. Down the back straight they go, working their way now towards turn 5, towards a Fostron corner. And it's a huge, huge gap before we see the man in P3. That is the conquest of Jaco Oosthuizen that's making his way now into turn number 5.
And Halleck has pulled into pit lane, Frankie. So that means only 9 of them left out there. Roger Lewis rounds it all off as the battle coming over here now is the Moffat van der Merwe battle. That's going to be quite interesting. They are 5th and 6th at the present moment as Oosthuizen and Toscano. 5.6 seconds between the two of them as Toscano comes across the line right about now.
Now you got a feel for these two supercar drivers that are busy making their way towards turn number 2. They're still pretty much nose to tail. That is Glenn Phillips and Michael Nell working their way towards turn number 2. Michael Nell closing up under the back of Phillips. You've got to be very, very careful. You've got to tiptoe those supercars around. These are not easy motor cars to drive in the dry even, never mind the wet. And Byron, am I right in saying that Jaco Oosthuizen, that sits first in class and 3rd overall, that's working his way through the kink, he is visually closing on those two supercars that are working their way now towards turn 4, Saddle Sweep?
It looks like it, Frankie. As we say that, though, the number 12 of Michael now puts in a fastest lap of a 1:51.308. And he's 0.3 of a second over Glenn Phillips. There comes the pair in the front of the fine car section, and that is going to be Jaco Oosthuizen that leads the way as far as things are concerned over there. 9.6 seconds between himself and the man on screen right now, the Mazda of Robert Toscano, and looks like Natasha Tischendorf has found her way ahead of Karel van der Merwe now, who's still circulating, and there's somebody going very slowly. I think that's Moffat going very slowly over there as well, and might also be thinking of bringing it in at the end of this lap.
Well, here the two leaders come under the City of Cape Town Bridge, heading towards turn number 1. You just saw Moffat disappear out of view. Here they come towards us, towards turn number 1. That's Glenn Phillips and Michael Nell that are P1 and 2. There was 0.5 of a second between them when they started this lap, and there really isn't much between the two of them as they work their way up the Joubert Straight towards turn number 2. And Nell has got other plans. Michael Nell's got other plans. He wants to have a look. He's looking up on the inside there of Phillips. Sam, that's a brave, brave move there by him. And Phillips just lifts off completely, moves out the way and say, listen, yeah, there's not much I can do. This thing is squirming all over the place. So, Michael, take that lead, and I'll see if I can catch up to you with about 3.5 laps left to go.
At full lock on there as well.
He did.
As he was coming into that corner, and he had nowhere else to go after that. And that's going to now allow Oosthuizen to close up even more to the back of them. Remember, 2 different classes, Supercars Gold and Fine Cars, but still, it's all for pride at the end of the day as well. So the conquest now, as I say, 11.5 seconds off of Michael. Now the last time around will be much closer the next time around, as there are 4 laps left to go, including the one we're currently on.
Well, Michael Nell has done a 1:51.308, and that is the quickest time out there. Supercars normally, the gold class used to run around here 1:22s, 1:23s, mid-packers 1:24s. We've got a spinner. That is, once again, that is Moffat that spun there, just coming out of turn number 5. Let's have a look and see. It could be Moffat.
I think it is Moffat.
Yeah, it's Moffat that just spun it coming out of turn number 5. Yes, it is Moffat, because here comes the 2 leaders under the bridge now, and that is Michael Nell and Glenn Phillips. So once again, Andrew Moffat spinning it at the entrance of the new pit complex.
I was actually speculating that he would pull in at the end of the lap, but he actually missed the pit entrance. And I don't know if he decided to carry on, and then after that spin decided, okay, let me just take a shortcut to the pit box and get myself into some nice warm clothes. But yeah, there goes Roger Lewis. He's still hanging on there in that 8th position as the two leaders go right past him, Nell and Phillips, 2.3 seconds between the two of them, and 8.1 seconds further back to Westhuizen as they have 3 laps left to go, including this current one that they're on.
Yeah, heading into turn number 2 now. He's the man that sits first in class and 3rd overall. That is the conquest of Jaco Westhuizen. He puts a lap there on Roger Lewis as the two of them exit turn number 2, work their way through the kink towards turn 3 interceptor corner. Here comes the conquest working its way into interceptor. The Ravenel conquest there of Jaco Westhuizen making his way towards turn number 4, saddle sweep, and behind him a lap down you see Roger Lewis come into picture.
Yeah, Roger Lewis, Tiny was also just mentioning over there, remember, that's an open-top car, that. So he's getting a bath and a half in there, you know, snorkel and his flippers and a wetsuit on in there and everything as well. He's really getting his experience today, I can tell you that much, Roger Lewis. And you know what? More respect to him going out in these conditions. And he always finishes every race he starts.
Yeah, look, he drives that car to the track and he does his race and he has a bit of fun and then he goes home and he enjoys himself. Right, another lap done. Another lap to start here for the man in car number 12. And that is your leader, Michael Nell. And he's done a 151.234. Working his way through turn number 1. And right in there behind him is Phillips. Phillips is 6.4 seconds behind Nell as he starts his second last lap, yes. And then we are now going through turn number 1. We've got the conquest of Jaco Westhuizen, who's 7.4 seconds behind Glenn Phillips.
Yeah, just this one and the next one left to go. They'll be crossing all their fingers and toes, I'll tell you that much, to get around these laps. Every time I look, it even looks wetter and wetter every time. Despite that, a 151.234 for our leader, Michael Nell, 6.4 seconds ahead of Glenn Phillips, and starting to break the gap now ahead of Jaco Oosthuizen, who still leads the fine car section ahead, but Robert Toscano. If I look a little bit further back, Natasha Tischendorf still holds 3rd in class, 6th overall. Bradley Rowe will be 7th in that turbocharged BMW, and Roger Lewis will round everything off in 8th position, but 4th in class.
Oh, the laps are now beginning to unwind, and I'm sure that these drivers will be begging to see that checkered flag. The lead is making his way down the back straight towards turn number 5, towards Fostron corner. When he comes around, you'll have one more lap to go. Karel van der Merwe starts another lap. Natasha Tischendorf follows suit. And then coming towards the City of Cape Town Bridge is your class and overall leader, Michael Nell, who is the quickest man out there. He did a 151.2 last time, and he does a 151.1 this time as he works his way into turn number 1 to start his last lap. And then Glenn Phillips starts his last lap, and he's nearly 9 seconds behind Michael Nell.
Here comes Jaco Oosthuizen in the conquests, crosses the line, and will start his final lap of the race. Robert Toscano, we wait a little while for him, and he will do likewise. I see Rowe is a lap down at the moment, Bradley Rowe, and then Roger Lewis will be likewise as well, as the wind, like we say, that picked up over the course of the late morning into the afternoon. And remember, we have bike races coming up now, so and it's very, very wet out there, as it looks like Natasha Tischendorf just being passed by our leader at the moment and being put a lap down.
So the leader's working his way towards turn number 4, working his way towards saddle sweep. That is the 12 car sitting in P1. That's Michael Nell. Michael busy working his way down the back straight, all on his own. Down the back main he goes towards turn 5, towards Fostron corner. Second is Glenn Phillips. Glenn coming into view now down the back main. So there's a pretty decent gap between Michael Nell and Glenn Phillips. It was nearly 9 seconds when they started the lap. Michael is heading towards the end of the lap, working his way out of Fostron corner. That is turn 5. And working his way towards the City of Cape Town Bridge. There's a lot of water in that part of the world. He just takes it easy as the checkered flag is out. And Michael Nell wins the second race for the Supercars.
Here comes Natasha Tischendorf now. It will be a lap down and will take third in class. Glenn Phillips will take second in his class and overall as well. Here comes Westhuizen, who will take the win. He closed up quite a bit in the last lap there to 5.9 seconds to Glenn Phillips, but he will win the fine cars class. We wait for the likes of Robert Toscano to come through in his MX-5.
He's going down the back straight. He's heading towards turn 5, towards Fostron corner. He's Robbie Toscano. Yes, I see him. There he goes. Robert Toscano working his way out of turn number 5 towards us with Bradley Rowe that will finish his race, but he's not going to finish on the lead lap as Toscano brings the MX-5 to the checkered flag.
And Bradley Rowe brings the BMW to the line as well, the 2002 to 7th overall. And that will be fourth in class, excuse me. And then Roger Lewis will get 5th in class. We just wait for him and Karel van der Merwe, 5th and 8th respectively.
I've got a car heading down into turn number 5 right now. That should be the van der Merwe supercar. It is indeed Karel van der Merwe supercar, but working his way to the flag is Roger Lewis. Roger Lewis takes the checkered flag. There he goes across the line. And then Karel van der Merwe is the next one that's making his way to the line in the 74 car. So that was the Supercars and Fine Cars Race 1, and only 5 cars on the lead lap. Michael Nell, Glenn Phillips, Jaco Westhuizen, Robert Toscano and Karel van der Merwe. Everybody else 1 lap down or more, with Moffat having a did not finish.
Here's just a